Welcome everyone to the Oconee County Public Library Board of Trustees meeting today, Tuesday, September 26th, 2023. Following Robert's Rules of Order, I will now do a roll call of members present. Monica.
Here.
Paul.
Here.
Nivea.
Here.
Tara.
Here.
Allison.
Here.
Shelby. Nick.
Here.
Cliff.
Here.
And myself. With a quorum present, I will now call this meeting to order. You should all have a copy of the agenda before you. Are there any changes to the agenda?
I'd like to make a motion if we could move, well, the minutes is the first thing, so that's fine, but to move the executive session right behind that so Nivea can participate in that part of the meeting before she has to leave. So I make that as a motion.
All right, so then,
Second.
so call for discussion? No discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? So that means, Blair, we now go into executive session?
You could do minutes first.
Do minutes first then? All right. So you all should have gotten a copy of last month's minutes, or 2 months ago. Are there any changes to the minutes? All right, so
I make a motion to adopt.
adopt the minutes, second? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right,
I do believe that it might be advantageous to see if there's any public comment before we.
Yeah.
Okay.
I agree. Yeah.
all right. So is there any public comment this evening?
We're just here to learn.
Oh, lovely,
I'm
welcome.
Sandra Land, and I'm Patricia Spurlock, and we're with the League of Women Voters in Oconee and Pickens County.
It's a pleasure to have you this evening, thank you. So then Blair, I guess I go right into,
If you want to go ahead and.
We need a
we
motion.
can- Really, the only thing that we had to vote on, most of the rest of it is informational. The only thing we had to vote on was the resurfacing policy. So you can either do that first or make a motion to go into executive session.
I think we should do the resurfacing policy.
Yeah, as a voting matter.
okay. Not quite sure what we're voting on then.
The thing in front of you, basically what we're proposing to do, there are some libraries, there aren't any really close to us, but there are some libraries. Tucker, our circulation manager at Walhalla, kind of came up with this, that we would actually let people bring us their discs to resurface using our machine. There are some libraries that do that. You can see here, I mean, we're going to put some limits on it so that it's not, hey, you know, somebody brings us their entire collection of movies or, you know, something like that. And it will be $1 per disc, and we don't make any guarantees. We will run it through our resurfacing machine as we do ours at the library. It works very well. It is certainly better than something you're gonna get off of Amazon. However, we don't make any guarantees that it's gonna play any better when you get it back. We just, you know, you're paying us $1 for the opportunity for us to run it through a more professional machine than what you can afford at home. And, you know, the $1 is basically covering our cleaning equipment. And again, we make no promises. The person who's doing it must have a library card, be in good standing with no fees. We'll resurface the disc within a time frame of 1 week. It's not like you just bring it in and we resurface it while you're standing there. It will have to be left with us. And then, of course, discs not picked up basically will be probably donated to our friends of the library. And the patron basically assumes the risk for the service. We don't make any guarantees what it's gonna come out like. We don't make any guarantees it's gonna play any better. But again, it just is an opportunity for patrons to bring their discs in and let us use our more professional machine.
All right, so we're gonna vote on this, so does somebody wanna make a motion to adopt this?
I have a discussion on
Okay,
it, I
sure.
guess.
Sorry, yep.
Any consideration on them bringing in like burnt CDs, a copyright you know, about them being the original owners of the material they're
I
bringing in?
actually have with me a lot of the background information where some of these other libraries were doing it. I can tell you that was not mentioned in any of it, but it is certainly something that we could, you know, I mean, especially since we're not really like watching it, all we're doing is resurfacing the disc. there's not really any implication of copyright problems on us, like, we're not burning a new one, we're not doing, I mean, all we're doing is resurfacing it.
Right, right.
So in the other libraries that we looked up to get the background on this, I didn't see anything stating that particularly.
Okay.
We could put that in there. We could
I,
say-
I would be poised to just, if someone brings you their, sleeve of burned CDs from back in the day, if you're okay running those or not.
I think it would get difficult to police that
I
because
agree.
someone could have like their family VHSs that they put on a CD at some point, and
Right.
I think if you did
And I
that, then
honestly think, again, because all we're doing is
Right,
like
you're
cleaning the
resurfacing,
physical
not
disc,
changing
we're
the
not doing
format.
anything with the content
Okay.
whatsoever, I don't think that's really an issue. I mean, and again, we are just saying, and it's very clear in the form that we'll have you fill out, I don't have a copy of that yet, because we're still working on format. But basically, it'll be very clear, all you're doing is bringing us a disc, we're gonna put it through our resurfacing machine, you pay us $1, life goes on, and if your disc doesn't work any better,
Lost the buck.
One question I have on it, I know it's saying the patron will pay upon pickup. So the work will have been done and now they're picking up. And again, if they don't pick up, in essence, we're out $1. I
Right.
mean, do we want to have them pay in advance to ensure that they have a little meat in the game?
I would always take money in advance if possible.
Since there's no guarantee anyway.
There's no guarantee, and if they come in and they say, well, this doesn't work, I'm not gonna pay you, then we've spent $1 on cleaning supplies. And that was another question. The $1 there, could we build any profit into that, or is there any profit into that? Because it's not really an essential service. I'd prefer, funds to, be generated through this, not just covered on cost, if possible, possibly.
we'll have to look into that as far as if we wanna eventually raise it. I think for now, just in the inception of it, we'll keep it at $1, just so it seems reasonable. I mean, we don't charge.
And that's at cost for supplies?
Yeah, we don't really, the few things, I mean, the library really is supposed to be free, so the few things that we do charge for usually is like if we know we're gonna do a particular craft program that involves X item that may be a little more expensive or something, we've charged for like canvases, or we've charged for something else in the past, supplies. Most of the time, we just bring the supplies, a lot of times it's yarn or paint or something that people already had or that we had in our supplies of Genesis supplies or youth services. There have been those rare occasions where we have asked somebody to pay a little bit for a particular program in advance because of, it being a little more expensive for us, like buying canvases and stuff. You go online and get those, even online, they're not that cheap. So we're gonna do a painting program, a lot of times we would ask for those. Probably wanna keep it at $1 for now, just to kinda introduce the service, and then if it looks like it's gonna be more than what, because the machine was expensive, but I mean, the chemicals in our really aren't. That and then some of the little resurfacing discs, they're not very expensive. And we have them and use them all the time anyway for our own discs, so I think it was just mainly to, like you say, pay for a little bit at least of the cost of the supplies, and also just you're paying for something. It's not just, hey, I wanna bring in a bunch of discs. I mean, if it's $1, maybe some people will think twice about it. And then paying up front, we can definitely adjust it for that, if that's what you'd like to see.
So, do you think that there'll be many people taking us up on this offer?
We really don't know. I mean, I know a lot of people now do streaming and do other things, whatever, so it could be that there's a few hardcore users that do their, 5 per week, that we're gonna allow, and then we may see nothing. And it can be adjusted. I mean, it's just like any of our policies. I mean, it can be adjusted if it turns out that we get inundated, or if it turns out we don't have that many people using it, we just discontinue it. I mean, this is just something they're trying to offer, another service. We already do it anyway. We already have staff tasked to do it at certain times of the week. So a couple more discs or a few more discs wouldn't really be a big problem. And it's just another good service that we could offer. But at the same time, we can always revisit it. We can always look at, this is working, this is not working, we need more money, we need, to make less, do less of them at a time because there's just so many people doing it. Or, hey, there's not that many people, we can take 7 instead of 5. We can totally adjust this once we sort of assess, how it's gonna start off.
Okay. Any more discussion?
I think so long as you take payment up front. Do we need to
If
vote?
that's a motion, I'll second.
Yeah,
think-
well, I mean, in the motion, we can say, you know,
Adopt
with
it.
the change to the existing, you know, document that it's, you know, take the payment up front. I make a motion to accept, and then
I make a motion that we adopt this with the change that the cost of $1 per disc is charged at the drop-off, not at pickup.
And I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. All right. So then I think the next thing we'll do is motion to go into executive session. Like,
Second.
sorry, who was first?
I thought I was.
You were first, okay. And you were second?
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Nice having you.
Is there a motion to come back from executive session?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
All right, we're back from executive session
Second?
and no action was taken. So we will resume to the Friends report. Blair?
All right, I provided you all with the sales figures in the background information, but just to reiterate, for July, their total sales were $3,744, and for August, they knocked it out of the park with $4,568. Pretty awesome.
Yeah, wow.
And I will just tell you that at one point in time, I think maybe back in the summer, they were a little concerned about not getting as many donations. That's not a problem anymore. They just had a donation yesterday. A gentleman brought basically 2 pickup loads. Unfortunately, his wife had passed away, and I think the sons were here to help him clean out. And so they brought every craft book, I think, that she had, every novel that she, I mean,
Shopping.
he literally brought 2 pickup loads full. Their sorting room down there is absolutely packed right now.
Wow.
Good stuff. And some of the stuff was actually pretty good. Y'all need to make it to the sale on Thursday and check it out.
Yeah.
But anyway, as far as the Friends are concerned, I know they have also been talking with Carrie, our social worker. She's got a couple of projects that they're looking at. I don't have any details on that yet, but I do know that they've been looking at some projects going forward. I do know that they are, you know, we are going to talk to them probably for a couple of projects. And quite honestly, the kind of money they're bringing in right now and the kind of money that they could be bringing in, I'm actually gonna be asking them for some money for larger projects, like, you know, some false walls and some of the branches and that kind of thing to help us out with some of our spacing issues.
Cool.
So we are to the point, I mean, if that's about what they're bringing in every month, and then, you know, we automatically get half of that every 6 months, I mean, you can see what we're getting in terms of, you know, just donation money from them, and then, you know, whenever they have special projects or that kind of thing, they can come through, pretty quickly for me. So we're gonna be asking them for some larger projects. They're always looking for stuff that they get motivated to raise more money. And right now, they're doing a great job, so they get motivated, look out. And they really have expanded to where they sell and how they sell and that kind of thing. They're doing the online, they're doing the, various, you know, that Books on the Alley still does great. I mean, that's a great location for them, and basically that's provided to us for free, and she rings up the sales by the lady in Tannery and Sons, Mary Tannery, so they're doing great, and we of course very much appreciate. Also, we honor all of our volunteers at that time, of course, but the reason we do this in October is because that's National Friends of the Library Week. So I provided all of you with your invitations for the event. It'll be at the Walhalla Depot on the 19th, 6 to 8, and it is kind of a formal dress thing,
Cool.
kind of fun. It's gonna have like a old Hollywood movies theme, so that's why we're doing the dressing up, and there'll be, I don't wanna tease too much, but the entertainment will be fun. There'll be some movie trivia and that kind of stuff from like the old 40s and 50s movies and that kind of thing. So we're definitely looking forward to that. You all are invited, of course, and please, if you wanna bring a significant other, just indicate that in your RSVP to Janice, if you will. And you're certainly welcome to bring a guest. So, but yes, hopefully we'll see you all there on that Thursday night. It's up at the Walhalla Depot, so it's real close by. But that's the Friends report.
Cool. Are you gonna go through, oh, that just was the Friends report, okay, sorry. I was ready to go through your whole packet. All right, so we'll do committee reports, finance, Monica and Allison,
I have nothing to report. Did you have anything? Okay.
okay. Policy personnel, Nick and Tara,
Nothing to report.
okay. Building and grounds, Cliff and Paul,
Nothing to report.
okay. Community, me and Nivea, you got anything, Nivea? I'll just remind everybody that our library system's collaborating with the Family Engagement Center, NOLA, Piece of Pie, COBA, this is a new one since last time, Libby Embody created a cutout of Kobe Bear, like, one of those things you can put your face in, so kids can put their face in. And then our libraries, however Blair deems it,
Ours is a frog.
Kobe Bear, he's a bear. Maybe, did she do a frog?
She did a frog, and I don't know, maybe she did
Okay.
different ones for different locations or something, but
Okay.
ours is a frog.
Oh, that's so, okay. I misinterpreted that then. I need to check my Facebook again.
I mean, I'll have, I
It's just, if it was a bear, I was.
I can double check that for you.
No, okay.
Did you already
Just
take your
took it for a
picture,
frog.
Blair? I wanna see the one.
Yeah, really. All right, so it's a frog.
Pull it up the cell phone.
Yeah, I can show you after the meeting, I don't wanna interrupt the meeting and that kind of thing, but I do have, well, I have a partial picture of it, but it's definitely a frog.
Okay,
Rutland said we've officially taken possession of the Cobra frog, and he's,
that's what's odd. I totally in my
Yeah.
head said Kobe Bear because that's what they do. But it's a frog that will
I
be
don't know.
circulating
I
amongst the
think it was,
libraries.
maybe keep the wetlands green or something, whatever, so it's a frog with a cutout. And it's in our lobby right now at Wahala, and the kids can put their face in it and take a picture and all that kind of stuff, it's cute. We're gonna try to rotate it. I don't know, a couple of our branches, I don't know where we're putting it in Salem, I guess we'll have to ask them if we can stick it out in the lobby.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
That's cool. Okay, and then the other one was Clemson Rural Health. At a chamber nonprofit meeting a while back, Clemson Rural Health came and talked, and I was really fascinated with what all they're about. I'm so impressed. So I ended up meeting with Christy Boswell, okay? She does mobile operations, and so she was going to get in touch with Blair at some point to talk about when maybe they could station their mobile unit at a library. So that's just
yeah.
out there.
And we have kind of gone back and forth a little bit, we don't have anything set firm yet, but I have heard from her, and we have discussed, them bringing that.
Cool. That's cool. And that's just all I know about, but in reading through your report, there's just like visits from the Mexican consulate, that happened?
Twice.
Wow.
They came from Raleigh, set up the first time at Foothills Church in Seneca, and the second
Okay.
time they set up here at, I think it was St. Luke's, here in Walhalla.
That is awesome. Yeah.
They assisted, 500, somewhere along in there, getting their documents from Mexico, so that
I
then
don't
they
remember
can,
them talking about that. Okay. I
then they
must
can
have blacked
go,
out.
get their immigration status fixed up and all that kind of thing. So what they were getting actually from the consulate was a Mexican citizen ID card or their birth certificate or both.
Okay.
We
Cool.
got
Then they have ID in this country, see?
Yeah, they got filled really quickly, like,
Yeah.
it was 500 appointments, and they were probably, the first 3 days, they were done.
Yeah.
Like, they didn't have any more appointments.
Second one was bigger, the first one was 400 something, and they actually were able to take a few walk-ins, but they did it for the full week at Foothills Church. The second time they did it for just, I think it was the 3 days, 4 days,
Yep,
and, yeah, they were full.
yeah,
it
and it's a
was-
big
It
deal.
was at the technical college
Yeah.
campus, right?
Ma'am?
At the technical college
No, at
campus,
the
weren't they
church.
involved the
No,
second time?
Foothills.
Church in Seneca,
Foothills Community Church
yeah.
hosted it,
The second time?
First time, second time they did it at St. Luke's.
yeah.
Oh,
I
okay.
didn't go to the second one, but I was trying to help to get some appointments, and it's a big deal because usually they have to go to Raleigh, or they have to go like really far away, and some of them don't have transportation, so that's why it got filled
Either have
really
to go to
quickly.
Raleigh or Atlanta.
Raleigh or Atlanta.
Wow, very cool. Excellent. All right, so next is Chair's report, and pretty much the only thing I wanted to just remind everybody of is that Tiffany Hayes, she's the Director of Library Development at our State Library Columbia. She's gonna be hosting via Zoom our board training, and that'll be in the Wahala Library, October 24th at 5:30 PM. October 24th at 5:30 PM. This is an off month of our regularly scheduled meeting, so it's, it's still a Tuesday, it's still same time, just on an off month. So, and that's all I had, so Blair?
Okay. Just quickly, a couple other things to touch on. I kinda don't wanna walk over, any other, agenda items, so I'll hold off, discussing, any of the other things that are on the agenda, but I will mention just a couple of things. In addition to the Mexican consulate, you also mentioned some of the things that we're involved in. Carrie was instrumental, and maybe you all saw it in the paper, I don't know, but Carrie was instrumental in getting the showers, the mobile shower unit here for,
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
that. She was instrumental in
That
that,
was awesome.
and has also applied for a grant with Davos All In Foundation to support that as well. So that is also something that she is involved in as well.
Bless you.
And, then we will be having our, fall in service on, Monday, the 9th of October. You all can come to that if you like. I mean, we're gonna be doing the early part of the day in Walhalla, and then the latter part of the day probably allow the staffs to go back to their branches and have their own branch head, or, have their own branch heads be able to have their meetings and meet with their own staff and that kind of thing. We are having, in addition to you all having the state library, Tiffany will be, and I'm not sure who else is coming with her, one of the other staff maybe. She's actually gonna be coming up here that day to do customer service training for us, and we are also having somebody coming from First Light, that used to be Foothills Alliance, to speak to us about issues with human trafficking and what the library can do to help with that. So that will be on the 9th, and then we'll be doing some other training and all as well. And then, we are continuing, not getting as many really qualified ones as I'd like, but we are continuing to take applications for the youth services position. We are starting to look at, since that may be a while before we get anybody qualified, we are starting to look at, the branches really have kind of taken up the slack, if you will, and our October program is so full that we went back to the format we were using in the summer with an insert, and then, so it's basically 5 pages, 6 pages, again, because we have so many things going, and that's even without having youth services program. We are doing the story times again, at least for right now, we are doing 2. We can't do Westminster at the moment. We're gonna talk about being able to do that again. We are doing 1 story time in Seneca at 11 on Thursday, and we are doing a story time at 10:30 in Walhalla on Monday. So DJ is back to doing story times. DJ is also gonna be going out to, several of the preschools and doing stories with them, Open Door. Their learning center comes to our library and does a field trip every so often, and that happened last week. Yeah, last week. So, although I don't want DJ, since she's not, the degreed librarian, I don't want her having to do a full load. She is really getting out there. She and I will be going Thursday night to Tomasi Salem Elementary for their book fair, so we'll be there from 4:30 to 7, with the bookmobile. So we are still doing that, but we are starting to look also at some possibilities of maybe just some one-off programming, maybe some youth authors or some other things that we can put together in the meantime, just until we can get that position filled. We're not really at a critical point yet, if we get to November, December, or get on into January, and we're starting to worry about planning for next summer's summer reading program, I'll get a little more nervous, but right now I'm not feeling too bad about it, except that, hopefully we will get some qualified candidates and get a good person. But, DJ is doing a wonderful job in picking up the slack, and I appreciate her efforts, that she's willing to do that, and the other staff have kind of come in, like I said, branch staff have come in and created some great one-off programs, I think, for the kids. They're doing a Mother Goose story time in Salem, so Kayla Rucker, the manager up there, is doing that. So we are trying to fill in the blanks as much as possible with our youth programming, so that it doesn't fall too far off while we're looking for a full-time person to fill that position. And pretty much that's my report.
I had 3 things I wanted to ask or comment on under that. One, the Salem branch, I think it's really progressing nicely with Kayla. When you read the reports, you could feel the positivity and all the energy in them, and I just wanted to make note of that. 2, what I'm starting to realize now, after being on the board a couple of years, is it seems like every branch, when they give their report, it's slightly different format. I don't know, have you ever entertained the idea that there's a standard format that they follow when they give their report, or is that too?
We used to do that more, and I think, one, it has just sort of morphed as different people have taken over as branch heads.
Okay.
But also, the other thing was, anytime we had a standardized format, there was a lot of okay, we didn't do anything in that, or no comment, or that kind of thing. It was honestly just better to let them, you know, there were certain things, now we can, if there's something you feel like we're missing, you know, I can certainly say, hey, you need to comment on that, all of you need to comment on that. But one of the reasons why it has sort of morphed into slightly different reports is just because that's what is important to that branch. And that was what was important to that branch head, and what they wanted you all and the staff, because the staff also reads these things. We have them in one folder in our shared folder, and so the staff also reads these things a lot of times to see what the other branches are doing, because of course we meet each other like twice a year. You know, like we'll have all the staff at Walhalla on the 9th for in-service, but that's, you know, unless you're me or like the courier or whatever, you don't make it to all the branches very often. So I think that was the reason. So I mean, if you all wanted a more standardized report, we can certainly, you know, go back to that. We would just maybe have to think about, you know, maybe get our heads together with the staff and see what, you know, what they feel like the most important categories. And maybe even some of the stuff we include now wouldn't be in there because it's not that important. You know, maybe if we're gonna standardize it, we need to say, okay, back to like building and grounds, policy and personnel, I mean, just a very standardized report. But the reason it kind of morphed like it did, we did used to have a much more, like everybody used the same template.
Homogeneous, yeah.
And we just kind of got away from that, mainly because it was just what was important to those managers, and they hated including a lot of, no comment, blank space.
Well, now, I mean, now I better understand that, so thank you. And then the final thing, obviously, you know, Seneca, I keep reading about some of their things, and now it's the grass cutting schedule. Do the other branches have that issue too, or?
They do and they don't. I mean, Salem's a room we rent in town hall, so obviously we don't have to worry about Salem. Westminster doesn't have a lot of lawn. I mean, honestly, the biggest place that's gonna show up, and also Walhalla, because of the way it's built in the right of way, the old railroad right of way, so, I mean, now they come over our other lot, and that, the vacant lot kinda got grown up a few times this year. Unfortunately, they are also shorthanded. There were a couple of positions that were caught up in the hiring freeze that did not get unfrozen.
Okay.
Because they were vacant before June 6th of this year. So they are a couple of people short, and so the mowing crews, the guys, Brian is his name, the guy that got out and did the mowing and everything, they were always out, always doing whatever. Now, we have looked at some ways of maybe improving Seneca down there, and we are gonna actually look and see if we can get some volunteers to do very similar to what the garden club did in the front on that side, because I know that was one of the things that Emily was concerned about, was the side bed there beside the staff entrance and the loading dock. She was really concerned about that. And honestly, if that continues to be a problem, I even have permission from the county administrator to get somebody else to come do it and pay for it.
Oh, okay.
So we are trying to get on top of the issue there, so that, because Seneca's got the largest amount of land, not all of it belongs to us, of course, and then as the city takes over and does the park in the back and that kind of thing, of course, it'll be a different story. But I'm pretty sure right now, they mowed that whole block, that whole city block
Okay.
for us. And so we are, you know, we are trying to look at that, and like I said, we've even been authorized, if we have to pay somebody else to come in and do that, we're authorized to do that by the county administrator.
Thanks, yeah, appreciate that.
Any other comments? All right, well, Blair, we'll move into old business.
All right, old business, because of some things that have come up, I know the last time we met, we discussed a home delivery, we will postpone that, until such time as we can, revisit that. So we will postpone that for now. As far as the other building projects are concerned, we still are looking at options for getting the ramp built in Seneca. We are, I had talked with the grants administrator for the county, Brittany Martin, and she said that she was actively looking for some things. They thought they had some other, because they're looking for some grants for some other county buildings as well. So she was looking at some things, and also, you know, I'm going to go back to the county administrator, Ms. Brock, and talk to her if county is looking at bonding a large amount of money. Most of it will go for South County Sewer, but they are bonding, you know, I think it's $25 million out or something like that. So I'm kind of hoping that maybe we can get a small portion of that pie to be able to complete the ramp. So, we're not gonna let that go. I do wanna try to get that done within the next, say, year or so. If those avenues do not pan out, and I didn't really get a hold of Cliff or Paul because I had not had a chance to meet back with Miss Martin yet and just see if she had anything concrete for me. But as soon as I know what she's got and whether there's any chance at all for us to be on the bonding, I'll get back with them, because then if we do wanna go a different route and seek outside funding for that, we can certainly do that. And that has been done for other things before, so that is definitely an avenue that we can look at.
Any comments? No comments?
Of course, any future projects, I mean, a lot of it is gonna depend on funding, but I, in my heart, I believe that if we get that thing done in Seneca, and it changes the whole front of the Seneca Library, that's gonna cascade us into some other stuff. I could be wrong on that, but that's my hope.
I like it. I'm gonna go with your heart. I like that.
That's my hope. That's my hope.
All right, if there's not any comments on old business, we'll move into new business.
And new business, of course, we have already covered the resurfacing of discs, so we will go ahead and proceed with that. The only other thing I would bring up, we've made a couple of changes to the way we were doing kits. The math kits are really close. The math kits may roll out here, oh my gosh, maybe in the next month. We should really be close on that. I actually think she's just waiting on a few materials that haven't been completed yet. Still gotta be laminated, still gotta be cut out, all that kind of stuff. And maybe a few manipulatives that they were waiting on from, I think Amazon somewhere. But anyway, the math kits are really close. We were looking at doing Spanish language kits. That has been now through the last 2 youth services librarians, and we even have, people on our board and now our staff. We just recently hired somebody, actually, some of you know her, we've mentioned her name before, but Imelda is one of the people that was helping us out on our Hispanic, our cultural committee. She's now a part-time employee at the library. So, in addition to Amy, we have somebody on staff that speaks Spanish now, so that's been really nice. And she's a great worker so far. But we think we're gonna have to just revisit it. It hasn't come together. The Spanish ones are really difficult to do in the same way that we had done, like the literacy kits and the storytime kits and that kind of thing. So we've actually had to revisit those. We're not getting out of it, but we're not gonna have those ready to go very soon. We've actually had to kind of re-examine how we're gonna do those. So it's still like a back of our mind project we wanna do, but it's not gonna come, they're not gonna come out in the next month, like the math kits.
And you are speaking Spanish kits, not ESL kits?
Correct.
Okay, just making sure.
We actually do have a few ESL, we don't have much in the way of kits, but we do have, some of the electronic, like the box books and that kind of thing that are English, Spanish, and that kind of thing that will help teach. And we are continuing to build on, and I think especially now that we have somebody on staff that can really help us say what would be, this would be good, this would not be so good, that kind of thing, we are continuing to build up our Spanish collection. And we'll be doing that apace, but, just the kits themselves, the ones that we wanted in Spanish to do similar things that the literacy and storytime kits did, they're just a very tough nut to crack, and find the same kind of things, manipulatives and all, but stuff that are also culturally appropriate has been a little bit more of a challenge than we anticipated, so, especially now that we don't have a youth services librarian currently, and they were working pretty closely with Leah Kelly, who's our buyer, our acquisitions manager. We've kind of put those on hold temporarily. But any of the books we already did have for them, we passed those out at the Hispanic Heritage Festival back on the 16th, so that was a good thing. We passed out, oh my gosh, we passed out, I don't know, we emptied at least 2.5 boxes, and I think they had about 80 or 100 books in each, so I think we gave away probably 250.
Wow, that's
The
cool.
festival itself was actually bigger than last year, so I know there's already discussion about having one again next year. The only thing is, we may not be able to have it up there on Brown Square, because it had gotten really crowded.
It's bigger than that, yeah.
So we're gonna be able to go with it. But anyway, that's really all I have on, you know, any of the kits. Other offerings, we are revisiting and looking at the idea of adding a few things to the library of things. We are looking at basically, you know, a few ideas that are maybe a little non-traditional, like canopies or some other things like that. And we just, with, you know, not having all the personnel that we need right now, it's kind of had to put a little bit aside. But I'm hoping that between, especially with what the Friends are raising and that kind of thing, anything we wanna do in that vein, and offering new services, like if we were gonna do the disc resurfacing now, those kind of things, I think, we're just gonna continue to keep trying to offer new services and also new things in our library of things. So I'm hoping when I come back to you all in November, I'll have some concrete, like, hey, we've added this and this and this, that I'll be able to report.
That's awesome, that's wonderful. Anybody else have any discussion on anything? That pretty much wraps it up. All right, anybody wanna make a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? We adjourn our meeting.